Hello, everybody. Andy Jacob here with the DotCom Magazine Entrepreneur Spotlight Series. And I have a great show today. You know, I've been able to invite Mr. John Moussan on the show. And when we talk about marketing, we talk about D2C or direct to consumer. John's in the middle of it all with his company called Great White Media. He's a real leader in the space. He's a go-to expert. We have so many questions about not only what Great White is doing, but also what D2C is all about and how companies can get to those consumers. Because if you don't get to your consumer, you don't have a business. So John, welcome to the DotCom Magazine Entrepreneur Spotlight Series today.
Andy, thank you so much for this wonderful introduction. Too generous, and I'm very happy to be here.
It's great to have you. I mean, you've done such a great job with Great White. I mean, everybody, you know, when you go to your website, you check out everything that's happening online. People are raving about it. Before we get started, you know, you've got a proven 5-step system that we're going to talk about. But before we get started, let's pull the lens back to 30,000 feet. Tell us exactly what you do at Great White, what the expertise is, and then we're going to get into it.
Yeah, absolutely, Andy. Thanks for asking that question. Simply speaking, we love helping D2C brands, e-commerce D2C brands. And so these are brands that want to go online, they're e-commerce businesses, and they want to reach out there to their consumers. And one of the best ways to do that is through email and SMS, especially email, because it is the statistically number one way to reach out to people. So that's what we do. We're an expert in that field. We're independently vetted top 1% in our field, and we love doing that work, especially when I see business owners or CEOs or managing directors really excited and doing great work for their business and growing their business. Really, that's what we're there to do, to help them grow their e-commerce business.
Yeah, I love it so much, John. Of course, you know, you mentioned email. I mean, email is so important. I mean, you know, people back in the day, you know, they were saying, hey, email's gone. Nobody's doing business by email. Nobody's going to be communicating by email. But I find email's running the rule. I mean, they're really running the roast. I mean, when you think about it, people communicate by email still in 2022, right?
That's absolutely right, Andy. And in fact, you know, we're publishing a book shortly here, and I had to do a little bit of research on that. And part of the research I was doing is looking at some statistics from different websites. And I have seen some statistics where they're talking about how email is growing and still growing every year. There's more users going on. And some of the statistics I saw is that it is still the number one priority or the number one way to get through to people, even when there's a lot of social media going on and different social media apps. And SMS, you know, is just another channel coming in to supplement email. More and more people are going to be using SMS. More and more people for marketing, and more consumers want their favorite brands to reach out to them through SMS. So email is still going to be here for a while, and SMS is just going to help sprinkle those really nice sprinkles on top.
Yeah, I love it, John. Let's talk about the types of companies that reach out to you. They say, hey, John, we've heard about you at Great White. You know, we've seen some of your videos. We've seen you on a dais at an important event. And they say, hey, we want to get involved. We need a better marketing sort of approach. What types of companies are reaching out to Great White right now, and what's that conversation sound like?
Yeah, primarily, you know, we have online businesses that are really well established online, and they have great products. They want to serve their customers better. Now, some of these brands don't have email marketing established. Some of them do have email and SMS marketing established, like the channel being established. And especially after COVID, we've seen a big influx of businesses who've been in business for 20 years, but they're doing wholesale or selling direct to retailers. But now they're thinking, okay, well, how do we get online? And these businesses, one of the biggest challenges is they have no idea how to market themselves online and to their consumers. So that's one aspect. There's also like funded startups. There's established businesses been around for 10, 20 years. And of course, we have, the biggest brand we've helped is a national brand. They do over $150 million in annual revenue. But that's like the biggest brand we've chatted with. Typically, they have challenges with their emails, their email segmentation. They don't know, like if they're starting from scratch, they have no idea where to start, what they need help with, how to do it, what are the expectations? Email, Andy, something we didn't mention so far is email and SMS, especially email, can stand for about 20 to 30% of your revenue, which is a third of your revenue of the business. So if you're not doing that, you're missing out on a lot of aspects. So the conversation usually is like, hey, we need help. We've tried doing this ourselves. It's not working. It's not optimized. We've hired other people. They don't know what they're doing. Or I just had a chat with a gentleman this morning. He owns a farm up in Oregon, and they do a lot of beauty products and health products. And he said, that people sometimes unfortunately take his money, they never do the work. So that's some of the challenges. They're looking really for a growth partner to come partner up with them they can rely on so that they can focus on the other things in their business.
Yeah, I love it. You mentioned growth partner. That's a great way to put it, because you're really there to help them grow. And when we think about it, John, you look at that 35%, part of the business being the revenue driven by either SMS or email. That's a large portion of the business. So we're talking about margins here. What sells best? When we look at email marketing, or SMS marketing, is it a product? Is it a service? What types of industries can benefit from this type of proven marketing approach?
Yeah, usually all of the above. What we focus on is especially brands that have a product they're selling. So what we love to do is primarily, we've worked with all different industries, but what is dear to our heart is industries that benefit, that are in the health and beauty industry or the pet industry, or if they have some type of a really cool product that is very unique. Maybe even, we've had a chat with a company, they do these exceptional fashion watches that, don't see anywhere. But what we're really, dear to our hearts is our products that are maybe organic, or they have healthy beverages, or they help the customer or the consumer feel better about themselves in some way, shape, or form. And so that's that. Now, for service companies, if you are a service company and you're listening to this interview, we have worked, for example, with a spa. Now, this spa happens to have an online channel, but also services. So you can incorporate email and SMS both ways by selling your products online, but also using that to engage with your customers to come back for services you offer. We've also worked with breweries, believe it or not, and those, typically, sometimes they don't sell online, sometimes they do, but they have a local location where people come in to enjoy a drink, and we've actually helped them incorporate different types of campaigns and emails to bring back people in, to generate excitement about the things they're doing. But yeah, mostly we focus on e-commerce businesses, and that's where we can really generate 20 to 30% of the revenue.
Yeah, I love it, John. Of course, we think about it, and you mentioned it, when we're looking at email and we're looking at SMS messaging, is the idea to brand, is the idea to bring awareness to the consumer, is the idea to use those channels to get the consumer into a sales cycle, or what they call maybe a funnel, or is the idea to get the consumer to buy right then and there once they get the email or the SMS, or is it all three?
It is, and it's actually a customer journey. That's exactly how we design our strategies, is we look at the customer journey, and there's 6 stages to that, or we split it into 6 stages. You have your awareness stage where somebody's coming in, they don't know your brand, they don't know your product, first time they meet they meet you. And then the next stage in the product is making a purchase. So for somebody who's listening to this interview, they're like, well, how does that apply to email and SMS? Well, that could be like your welcome series, your welcome flow, your pop-ups on your website. So some of these areas. Now you go into a big challenge is the abandoned carts. I think if I remember correctly, 70% of carts in e-commerce get abandoned, meaning people add it to their carts and they never purchase. Now that's a high intent customer. If you don't follow up with them and don't follow up with them succinctly, then you're literally just leaving a sale on the table where you can just go ahead and grab it and help that person feel good about purchasing a product. So you have the purchase, then you go into the retention phase. And that's one of the biggest challenges we see when working with companies that are already established, or maybe they already have email and SMS marketing channels, but they're not optimized. Their lifetime value, long-term lifetime value. I had a chat with one of our brands the other day, and they said they're spending $50 to acquire one customer, and they're in the supplement business. But what happens if the supplement is $40 or the average order value is $50? You're breaking even or losing money. You need a way to increase that lifetime value of the customer. So email and SMS is like the absolute bread and butter of increasing lifetime value. Then, so you have the retention. Now you're going into the advocacy stage. That's another area where we see businesses, especially established businesses, where that area is weak because they don't have a VIP program. They don't have a loyalty program. And those can be utilized in email and SMS to say, look, if you're a VIP and left us a 5-star review, why don't you refer a friend to us? And what that does, it's generating word of mouth referrals. So now instead of spending $50, for example, to acquire a customer, or a $10 or whatever your cost of acquisition is, you're virtually acquiring it for much, much less by giving loyalty points or a $10 gift card or something like that. And then the last two stages would be the win back. These are people who haven't bought from you. They bought before, they haven't bought from you in a while. And then of course, we go into another technical area, which maybe I'm not going to touch too much on, but sunset, which is really making sure your account is nice and clean, because that also affects the long-term longevity of an email and SMS account. And of course, there's other ones that are transactional emails that are not part of the customer lifecycle. Like when somebody places an order, they should get an email saying, hey, this is what you ordered, we got it. You pay for it, this is your receipt. So that's primarily what we focus on when we're setting up automations in an email and SMS system, is incorporating the whole life customer journey. And depending on the business, there could be like 10 automations, it could be up to 35 different automations as well, or just depending to how deep and how focused and how personalized we want to be in our approach.
I love it, John. I mean, you're really looking at the customer journey in 6 stages, and you're really looking at the lifetime value of a customer. And, when you think about it, a lot of companies, they might think about stage 1. They might think about maybe stage 2, but now they're not thinking about all the other stages. And when we're talking about businesses that are working on the margins, this is a great way to increase their revenue, increase their margins by looking at the lifetime value of the customer journey, putting in place these touch points that you become known for at Great White Media, and sort of enjoying the benefits of that. Maybe in your example, that high cost to bring a customer in at the beginning, but then they start sending referral business, and they start sending in testimonials, and they start telling their friends, relatives, and coworkers about their experience. And one thing I know for sure is you have to ask for referrals. You can't just expect them to come, right?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And that's one of the key areas that we see these businesses miss out on. And actually, I'd love to share a case study here. One of the brands that we work with, large national retailer, they sell air purifiers. And they were struggling a little bit with their email when it comes to the automations, because to get to that 20 to 30%, there's a couple of things to happen. And just to keep it simple, there's mainly 2 things that gotta happen. You have to set your automations right, but also you have to have a monthly campaign calendar, whether it's your newsletter, whether it's your new product feature, whatever it is. Now, they were doing well, doing some of the things in-house when it came to campaigns, but when it came to automation, they really need that expertise, and they were looking for somebody, expert in the software they were using. They reached out to me, and we designed a complete strategy. It was like, 10, I think it was like maybe 18 different automations, like 40 different emails. Anyway, so before we came and started working on them, and I got the numbers, because this case study really excites me, because it really stretches your mind to what email and SMS can do. And this one specifically was email. So what happened before we were working with them, I looked at their stats, and they were doing about 100 in a 30-day period. They did $100,000, and that accounted to about 1.5% of their online sales. After 90 days, meaning, we did the work, now it's live doing. After 90 days, I looked at that 90-day period, and the revenue from their automations was about $850,000 in a 90-day period, and that's about 6.5% from 1.5%. So that's a jump of like 3 or 4x within 90 days, not to account for the yearly benefit that we get, because these automations are more or less evergreen in their business. So their ROI was, stellar on that deal, because that's great. But that's what somebody who knows what they're doing can do for a business like that.
Yeah, it's incredible, John. You do such great work. When a client reaches out to you, What's it look like from an automation standpoint? Are you using your system to send out the SMS and the emails? Are you using their system, some hybrid model? What system is being used to do all this D2C, direct-to-consumer outreach?
So for us, obviously we're more a B2B approach. So when when we have people reach out to us, it's a little bit of a different strategy, and we do it. I'm very good at it, and we do it in-house just for our business. It's not usually something. At least right now, we don't offer it as a service. However, the main service is, like you mentioned, the D2C, the direct to consumer, and there are. And that's a great point, because let me talk about the three dangers facing business owners. That's who we work with: business owners, the CEOs, or the marketing managers, basically of the brands. And that's something I also mentioned in the book. And the number one, to make email, to maximize the revenue from your email, you need a really good tech stack. So that, of course, means your online shop, but also the other applications like the email marketing platform that I'll touch on in a second. And then, of course, number two is hiring the wrong people if they don't have the expertise, and that could be a disaster. And number three, also bad practices. Even if you have your own team, I had a gentleman reach out to me a few months ago. Their business, they sell snacks. They were doing well on email until their bad practices caught up with them, and now their emails go to spam because they didn't have that expertise. So if you're doing well right now in email marketing, but you have bad practices, and sometimes you don't even know you're doing that, it's a tricky situation, because all the work you've done could be wiped out. But so going back to that tech stack and the software that we use, there are many different ones out there. And we decided, I believe in the power of one. I believe in, if we want to become experts and drive revenue, we have to really know everything inside and out. And so for the moment, we love partnering up with Klaviyo, which is a fantastic email and SMS marketing software. And that's what we specialize in. It's our key expertise. And that's the only thing that we do right now, because we know it so well and we focus on knowing it so well. And that's really important, because there's a lot of changes happening. Think about like the iOS update that was maybe last year came up, the privacy changes. That completely impacted everything the way it does, and the upgrades in the system. So you need somebody, even if you're doing it yourself, which hopefully you're not. If you're the CEO of the company, hopefully you're not doing it yourself. But if you are, or you have your team, you need somebody to stay up to date with all these things, and you need good support. So that's why we chose, and I hope they stay the same. I hope they stay very good for a long time, because it's their also infrastructure that helps us generate the results that we generate for the clients. And so that's what we really specialize in.
Yeah, I love it, John. It's great. Let's talk to the younger entrepreneurs. Let's talk to a startup founder. They have a great idea. Maybe they're bootstrapping it a little bit, and they say to themselves, wow, I love what John's saying. I mean, this is fantastic, but I don't have any data. I don't have any email addresses. I don't have any, no SMS, phone numbers yet. What do you recommend for that founder or that that team to start accumulating and start getting this data so that they can start re-engaging with those customers along the full journey?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's kind of like a catch-22. So if you're just starting fresh, bootstrap, what you want to do is your first aim is to get to that 20 to 30% number. Okay, so that's your and the way you want to do it is, email is not magic. If you don't have people visiting your website, if you don't have a good product, if you don't have a good business model, no matter how good your setup is, you're never just going to make money just because you have a good email setup. So you want to get your foundations right and find good partners that can drive good traffic to your website, qualified traffic to your website. When it comes to email now and SMS, where you leverage that is making sure you have good sign-up forms, whether it's pop-ups, flights, whatever that is, to capture those people, have a way to follow up with them without spending additional advertising money. And once they're in your system, maybe just set up your basic foundational automations, like welcome series, abandoned cart, and maybe like a browse abandonment flow, and maybe send one email a month or maybe twice, if you have a small list. So that's kind of like the first steps, but it's kind of catch-22. Which one do I do? Do I drive more traffic to my website, or do I set up email? I say do it both.
Yeah, I love it, John. Let's talk about something that's very interesting. So here you go. Use your expertise. You set up the system. and it's just knocking the cover off the ball. A lot of good leads coming in. But then on the other side, the client, they don't have the wherewithal or the capacity or the mindset to really close the deals. So who helps the company figure out how to improve their sales cycle? I mean, you can do all the work delivering all these customers into the journey, but unless they can take the customer and re-engage, resell them something, upsell them, or do something with the customer, then all that hard work is lost. So do you also help the company sort of start to think about that as well?
You know, you're just kind of giving me a little bit of goosebumps now asking that question, because I just had that conversation yesterday with one of the brands that we help, and they're younger entrepreneurs, and they do a lot of their stuff on social media, YouTube especially, and they sell some digital products. We did their quarterly growth report, and I looked at their data, and I looked at their average order value, and it was way lower than we see with brands. And I started saying, because I've been a business person for quite some time, over 10 years, been in e-commerce, and I've done quite a different types of businesses. So I have that a little bit of a business acumen, hopefully, to help some people. And with that, I had a chat with them. I said, look, why are you selling all these products individually? Why don't you bundle them? And what about creating? Look, you're in this niche. Why don't you just stay in this niche, but you're missing out this part? Why don't you create another product for this part? So anyway, it was a long conversation, and it kind of opened up their eyes. And yesterday, so what they did, they decided to release a new product, and for the first time, they did like $100 product. It was $100 product. And yesterday, I had a chat with them actually, and before we jumped into the email strategy and SMS, I said, hey, I want just to ask you a question. I seen you do different types of actions from when we started, and was it because we talked about your customer lifetime value? Is it because of some of the things I was sharing with you? And they said, absolutely 100% yes. So I was very happy because I was able to utilize my business experience, my sales experience, and give them ideas on what they're missing, what they could do. And now suddenly they came in, they created a product with a higher entry point, and I think they did a launch. Maybe they got like their first 100 customers out of that. It was a pre-launch, and they were just testing it. So they got very, very excited about that, and it was kind of one of their dreams, come true in a sense.
John, it's so great. When I think about it, and I think about what you're doing at Great White, one thing that your clients get with you, it's not just a system. It's not just this program. It's not just this understanding inside and out of how to put this into place, whether it's the SMS or the email marketing. They get your expertise. They get your advice. They get your background and experience. And, I would think that that's worth, a whole lot of money to a lot of companies. How important is that aspect of your business where you get to use your background and experience to actually consult with and help and train your customers as well?
Well, that's really important, and that's kind of one of the hidden benefits that we should probably do a better job of marketing it and discussing it with the people that we work with and the brands we work with. Because how do you put a value? If I give you an idea and I said, Andy, look, if you put this app on your Shopify store, like like a jewelry store, okay? So one of the things you can put an app where you can notify somebody else that you're interested in this necklace. Great for women, for somebody who wants to tell her husband or her boyfriend, for example, hey, look, I like this necklace, but she wants to make it subtle, right? And that idea alone, just by suggesting that idea, is worth tens of thousands, if not millions of dollars for a large business. And so how do you put a value on that idea? I don't know. I just know that, we should just, say, look, this is also part of the work we're doing together, but also focusing on the profits of the company. See, a lot of entrepreneurs, they spend a lot of money and time building a business. And if your business is doing whatever that revenue is, it could be 10 million, it could be 1 million, but how much at the end of the day are you really taking home? And that's really something that is also dear from our heart. Maybe in the future we'll be focusing on it more, is how can we help these business owners extract more profit and work less in their business from what they're doing. And that's a different conversation than email and SMS, but that's something I've been thinking about, and I would love to be able to help businesses do that, because that's what I do in my business.
Yeah, I love it. It's so great to have you on the show. I know you've only cut out a certain amount of time. I want to talk about entrepreneurship. I mean, you've really focused in and hit on something very, very important. You specialize in one particular area. And we always say, John, that specialists win and generalists lose. And you really have this specialization, in email and SMS, of course, using the one system that you've become, an expert in and know inside and out. So let's talk to the younger entrepreneurs, because a lot of younger entrepreneurs, maybe they're hitting a tough time. Maybe they're hitting a pothole in the road. Maybe they hit a wall. They freeze in the frame. It happens. What type of advice, John, can you give to the younger entrepreneurs watching the show that maybe are hitting a difficult time in their business on how to keep on pushing forward?
Yeah, number one thing is your mindset and your attitude. That's it. That's bottom line is you have to have a vision. Think about what you really want. Don't say, look, I want this, but I'm scared I can't have it. That's going to hamper you. Really expand your vision and look for what you want to do. Because if you have a vision, you've heard that so many times, we probably all heard it so many times. But the key thing is to have a vision that really fires you up and really go for it. Because life is short. And if you don't go for what you want now, when are you going to do it? Why wait 5 years? Why wait 10 years? Right now, go for the vision that you want. When you wake up in the morning, that will excite you. That's be like, you know what? I'm working for this vision because. And so you want to focus on this moment also. So don't worry too much about what's going to happen tomorrow, because who knows what will happen tomorrow. Have some plans for sure, but be in the moment. And that's what I love about this. And I'm glad you asked that question, Andy, because one of the things actually we're working towards doing with the business is donating in some way, shape, or form, whether it's money, time, or resources, to entrepreneurship programs, especially for young adults, whether they're teenagers coming out of high school or early 20s or something like that. That's something that's very dear to my heart, and I would absolutely love to contribute more to that space.
Yeah, I love it. You've got the book coming out. You've got the marketing system, the proven 5-step formula. Of course, you're very, very much in tune with the customer journey. The 6 stages of that journey, of course, are the basic stages, but then it can go up to 10, 20, 30, 40 stages. You're an expert in all of them. And of course, you really focus on the lifetime value. Before I let you go, I do want to talk about how you stay abreast of all this information that's coming in. I mean, like you mentioned, it changes all the time. You've got to be on top of your game, John. So how do you stay abreast? Do you set time aside every week to make sure that you and your team are up to date with everything that's happening with SMS and email? How does all that work?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we do have business coaches and people that advise us. And one of the things they told me to do, John, do a CEO day. And that's I have a CEO day every week, and part of that is to actually stay on top of cutting edge information. I mean, one of the things now we're looking to implement in email and SMS is neuroscience. I mean, that's really a whole different level. But yeah, so that's what we do. Stay connected with the community. There are plenty of really good resources. You can sign up to their newsletters. There are other really good expert companies that also keep in touch with what's going on in the market. So building that network around you, attending different educational seminars, and that's something else for the young entrepreneurs, or any entrepreneur really, is education and implementing your education. So once you learn something, go ahead and do it right away. Don't wait.
I love it, John. Before I let you go, one last question with regard to email. How far along is AI? In other words, are we at a point now where the AI can read the emails and know how to respond so that a person doesn't even have to respond to them? Where are we at, and where do you see that going in the future?
Yeah, that's another area we've been keeping an eye out on. AI has some capabilities. So, for example, some of the software we use have predictive analytics, which means they can predict when somebody's going to place an order within their next 2 weeks. So that's one area we actually use AI in. The other is the sentiment of the email. Okay, so when you write an email, it can kind of tell you what the sentiment is, but they can write emails now. I don't think, from what I've seen, I don't know if somebody's seen something else. From what I've seen, I don't think we're at a stage right now where you can really do the level of customizations we do with a professional copywriter. who knows what will happen from here, but that's kind of where we see AI right now, and we do see it playing a bigger role. What that will be is to be seen.
So exciting. What a great space to be in. It's hot, and you're right in the middle of it all, John, at Great White Media. So I wanted to thank you so much for coming on the show today. This has been great. I'm going to bring you back in another 6 months, and we're going to further unpack what's happening in this email SMS program, because I would imagine every 6 months it's changing so much. So, John, thanks so much for coming on the .com Magazine Entrepreneur Spotlight Series today. This has been great.
No worries, Andy. Thank you so much for your time. I would just like to add one thing. If anybody here listening to the call, if they would like a free copy of the book, once it gets published, or they would just want to have a chat about helping them with their systems, they can just simply send me an email. And my email is John, John, at greatwhitemedia.agency, just as it's spelled. So that's pretty easy there. Or they can head out to the website. But yeah, you can reach out to me by email, and be happy to send you a copy of the book when it comes out.